Alright, we locked in right now. It's the Wheel1 Podcast. Your boy Master Twice. I got a special guest in the cut. You know what I'm saying? It's my boy Christian right here. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
Introduce yourself to the people. You know?
Yeah, my name's Christian. Coming up. Just Christian, man. I'm gonna keep it super simple.
Yeah, you know, all right. We can keep it at a simple base like that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, a thing that we usually like to do in the podcast, you know, we usually like to get right into it, and we like to talk about, you know, upbringing, you know, siblings, family life, and, you know, a little bit about like the passions that you had as a kid too. Like, you know, let's hear a little bit of all that.
Okay, solid. So, I guess regards of my upbringing, if that's where we're starting.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
as far back as we can go, like, you know.
Yeah, I remember. I was born in Mississauga, so I was, Saga man, square one. Let's get it. But grew up in a complex, funny enough, and you know, it was kind of where my older brothers, myself, like we all had like our own circles, but it was like the older people would always be looking out for you.
Oh, yeah. I know you mean.
So it gave me the right to be bad as shit. So.
Yeah, because like, you know, it's like everyone's kind of like, all right, just rile him in when he gets too much. Like,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. So I pretty much spent my whole life out there, or that period of my life outside, just running around with my boys, with friends, all that stuff. But at the same time, like, I guess if we were to take it a step deeper, it's like spend all this time outside, but like inside is where you'd still see like the challenges of the household and stuff like that. And so you spend the time outside to kind of like
get away from the stuff inside.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because like, you know, I kind of relate to that a lot because like I used to think about myself because especially me, my parents in my neighborhood lived right across the street from the basketball court, and it's like whenever things are going on that I wanted to escape from, that was like whatever, it could have been inside. That's exactly where I went. I went outside, tried to spend as much time as I could out there because it's like it was like therapeutic in a sense. It made you forget about what was going on, and you just felt good for the moment in time. That's all you really needed in that moment in time, you know, until you get the true source of the issue. Yeah.
But I'm appreciative of growing up like that.
Yeah, because like a lot of kids spend too much time inside, and then I feel with too much time inside, it deals with like with time inside your head. Because when you're outside, you're enjoying life and living life and all that. But then at the same time, you're around other people. And when you're around other people, like we just have conversations in general, and we get those thoughts out of our head that we usually don't when we're just inside by ourselves more times. You know, It's just a bottle up effect.
Yeah, it's like even like reflecting on it, I feel like I learned a lot just from having that freedom as a kid. Even like little things like some little early developments of leadership where it's like, yo, I want to play a game. I'm a run tag. I'm gonna set it
man
up.
hunt. You know what I'm saying? I'm making sure every man's already like setting everyone up.
You know, when everyone's tired, you're like, all right, who's trying to run? Nicky Nando's.
Badass little kids in the building. I can't lie, I booted a couple of doors in my day. You know what I'm saying? You put that door around. I don't know. There's something about that adrenaline. You know what I'm saying? As a kid, you're just like, I'm not supposed to do this. You know what I'm saying?
But as soon as I seen my mom's whip coming into the complex, I know I'm not supposed to be outside. Catch you running to the backyard.
Try to make it in through the back. So it's like, you know, you act like you've been here the whole time, even though you're huffing and puffing.
Exactly. So I'm appreciative of growing up like that and all that. And, you know, even that time spent as in Mississauga growing up, you know, in the moment felt challenging to a degree, but you know, attitude of gratitude. I'm grateful because that's what shaped everything for where I've been going and like the direction of my life.
I feel like that's one thing that a lot of people don't embrace a lot is like you go through these like turmoils or situations that like at the time are maybe even challenging or hard to get through, but then it's like when you look back on everything, it's like you wouldn't really want to change it because it really, like you said, shapes you to know for where you're going. Because like, you know, I think for me, I'm a person that feels like everything's been written. Like, you know, it's all written and we have like decisions to make that lead us down like a split in the road. And I feel like either which way you go, that path is written for you, but like this is why you're going through what you're going through in the meantime, between time. So it's like, I like that when you said that, because it just really made me think about that. And a lot of people are stuck in that, like, you know, they feel everything from the past has been so hard on them, so how could they go forward, instead of the opposite of like, this has shaped me to go forward.
Reminds me of a story. It was a passage in a book, but it's been retold so many times, and it speaks about there's two twin boys, and their dad was an alcoholic. Maybe you've heard of it. And dad's an alcoholic, two twin boys, and you know, they grow up to live very different lives. And one of the boys, one of the twins, grew up to be an alcoholic as well. And when someone asked him, he said, "I had no choice. My dad was an alcoholic." The other one grew up to be extremely successful, business owner, entrepreneur. And when he was asked, he said, "Because my dad was an alcoholic.
I had no choice."
Yeah.
So that's like that's like exactly what I'm saying right there.
Yeah.
Where it's like that split in the road where they both went through the same situation, but they took their outcomes very differently. Where it's just like, one's like, "Well, I've seen this my whole life. Like, what do you expect from me?" While the other one was like, "I've seen that my whole life. What do you expect me? I have to get bigger than this. I can't do this the rest of my life." So it's like, I love that you're saying that. I love that we were bringing that like attention to that. I feel like a lot of people, they don't like to embrace the struggles that we do, that you have in any part of life, but especially like the early parts of life, I feel, because like those are the formative years, especially, you know.
Yeah. And it's not like, in the grand scheme of it, was it like the worst thing? Absolutely not. Like, like man, you gotta be grateful for everything.
Facts.
And so, like, in hindsight, it was not the worst stuff. It was stuff like so many people are affected with. Like, it was more so like financial challenges in the home and stuff like that. So my brothers are working from when they're young to just keep everything. And so seeing that as a kid and knowing it stressed out my mom and stuff.
It's almost like as a kid you learn the stress of money when it's like you're really just supposed to be living life.
100%. I remember being like grade 5 or something and seeing how my mom was stressed and, you know, things were tight. Like, I just knew. Knowing you know, but you don't know.
Yeah, it's like they don't need to tell you, but it's like, you know.
Yeah.
I know I can't ask for this new game right now, though. Like, it's one of those ones. Like, it ain't got to be said, but it's understood.
You're speaking facts, because that's been shaping my whole life. You know, I don't ask for nothing on my birthday. I don't ask for nothing on Christmas. People ask me what I want. I'm like, nothing. I'm
good. Yeah, I'm good. It's just like, I'm just used to that, where it's just like, nah, I don't want to be, I don't want to put the stress on you. It's all good.
I remember specifically wanting this red Digivice, and I saw the commercial. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, like, it's like you thought about it. You were like, yo,
I'm good.
She probably ain't got it like that. Like, I don't want to put that on her.
Yeah,
like, yeah.
You know
what I'm saying?
I remember being young and saying, man, I never want money to be an issue in my life, and I wanted one of my biggest goals from when I was a youth was to be able to retire my mom. That was the biggest thing.
Oh, that's big. That's huge. That's huge. You know, I think that should be a goal for a lot of people in general, just because, like, you know, as the time goes by, we're supposed to be taking care of the generation before us, like, you know. And I feel, especially if we like set ourselves up in a sense where, like, I don't know if you are, because like someone like me, where I'm like first generation Canadian, where it's like, you know, our people have left places for a reason. You know what I'm saying? To come all the way out here in this snow and this cold for us to do big things. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's why when you say that, it's like that's the ultimate goal right there, to be like, nah, you ain't gotta work no more. I got your little spot. Like, just cool out. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I find it. I love that you brought that up, because I'm Jamaican Nigerian. My mom came from Jamaica. She's like she's been living on her own since she was like 15. She came on her own. And my dad's from Nigeria. And
I could imagine the combination in the household of those two.
Niger Jamo.
Hey, Chistian. You got it all. You got it all. You got both sides for real. They ain't playing.
I used to say, I'll take a credit card and run fast. But I was talking to my dad on the phone the other day, and it was super funny because he's telling me about his nephew is trying to like get out of Nigeria. He wants to come to Canada, and he's telling me about the struggles that his nephew's having. And then he was like, "Yeah, I was going through the same thing," and I was like, "I wouldn't know."
Yeah. No, real shit.
I wouldn't know.
Like, for me,
Thank
being
you.
like, you know, that first generation, it's like I hear my pops and like my dukes, they'll be talking about stories, even my uncle and stuff, and it's like, I don't really know about that life. Like, I just know about here, and you know what I'm saying. And then when I look back, especially like as someone who's been back to like those places, when you go back, you're like, oh shit. You feel the difference, because even the people out there treat you like differently. Like, even though it's like from when you're over here, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm Jamaican, you know, Niger. Go out there, you're a foreigner from Canada. Yeah, like you ain't one of us. Like, it's like, yo, who's you? Like,
yeah. I went to Jamaica. My mom brought us to Jamaica in grade 11. We were at a hotel, whatever.
Did she tell you not to talk when you went to buy things?
Yes. Well, man, we left the hotel one time and a man's following me down the street. He's like, yo. I'm like, what up? He's like, yo, I like your chain. Let me show you where I can get some more.
Oh no.
He's like, just come with me. I'm like, I'm not going nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Stay here. I am Canadian now. Leave me alone.
The whole accent dropped. The whole patois dropped. Like, oh, no sir. I'm from Toronto. You know, we say the extra O, Toronto, not even Toronto. Like, you know, so I know exactly what you mean.
Even they're on the hotel, they were teaching people to dance. You know, everyone on the hotel, like, that came from everybody, teaching everyone to dance. So I was like, let me be part of it. The man singled me out. He's like, come on, you should be know how to do something. I'm like, yo,
yeah, because it's like, yo, he's looking at you like, yo, aren't your people from here? Like, what's
if
going on?
This is a basement jam, I'm sick. Don't.
Basement jams that's a different story. You know what I'm saying? Lights are off. The confidence has gone up 8,000. Like, you know, it's a different vibe. Than like, all right, everyone's looking at me now. I gotta bust up move, and I gotta be on point too. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm disrespecting the whole country if I don't do this right.
Exactly. Love it.
So like, I know exactly what you mean, especially with that. Like, when you go back and then like how things, like, you just feel the difference, and like, you know, more reasons for me when I came back too is like, okay, this is why I gotta go hard, you know, especially. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? I want to kind of bring it back to, like, you know, let's talk about like some hobbies and things that you did growing up, like what that you just did for fun, like, you know, a little bit of passions and like the hobbies that you did.
Yeah, so growing up, everyone around me was into sports. Like, they were all playing ball. And
you know, ball is life, you know, right? My whole life, my whole way.
Crazy thing is, like, yo, mans couldn't play ball, and like,
I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a baller. So like, but one thing I did notice from my friends that weren't ballers, that it was like this awkward space for them, because it's like, especially as being like, you know, black, it's like the niggas expect you to ball.
Facts.
And it's like, what do you mean you're out balling? And then it's like, so what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so, you know, tell us about that.
So I didn't play ball, and everyone did. So I always felt like really, really uncomfortable around it. But, you know, to the point I went to Zellers at Brownlee City Center back in the day and like bought myself a basketball, because I'm like, yo, like, I'm looking at myself, I'm like, yo, I should be sick at this. I should be sick at this. I'm dribbling. Like, yo, I got it, but I don't got it like that. So
I don't got it like that.
So I never got into sports, and I was never big into TV. In terms of like hobbies, where it really, really started for me was around 18. I got really big into reading books.
Funny enough, similar thing for me. Like, around like 19 is when I really got my passion for reading in. So it's like funny that was just around the same time. But, you know, continue on that though. Like, what book got you into that really like made you dive into it, where you're like, all right, reading is the shit. I can't believe I wasn't doing this before.
Yeah. So the first book was Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, and how I got into reading it. I call him my Uncle Samir. He's like, you just know, it's just like family. He's like, he had the book on him. I'm like, what book is that? He's like, oh, you don't want to read it. I'm like, what?
Oh, it's one of those ones. Like, reverse psychology, dude.
Right? He's like, you don't want to read it. I'm like, why? He's like, because I heard everyone who reads this book ends up rich. He's like, you don't want to read it.
Like, you know, you look like you're content. Like, you know,
give me this book right now. So that's how I got into, sort of how I got into reading there, but like where it really sparked. And so first year university, like halfway through, my mom got sick,
Oh shit.
She had breast cancer. And so first semester I was like doing really, really well academically. Like if I read something, I was the type of I can just like
stuck.
It's there. Mm-hmm. And after she got breast cancer, like everything plummeted. Like all my grades.
I could only imagine, bro. Like that's my whole focus is like if I was you, would be like on my dukes. Like fuck this school shit. Like you know.
Mm-hmm. So everything dropped there. But just before I found out about her having got breast cancer, I had started in network marketing at some company ACN, mm-hmm. and I honestly paid the money. Went like that, like the moment after I paid, mm-hmm. I got on a mega bus to St. Catharines to go turn up for the weekend, and so I forgot about it.
Oh fuck!
But what came along with it was a subscription to something called Success Magazine, okay. And so every month this magazine and a DVD would come to my house, and I had access to this online portal of books and like webinars and speakers and all of this. And so when everything happened with my mom, one of the magazines happened to come through, and I decided to log in, mm-hmm. and that's when like my world opened there, because that's when I got into personal development, like learning, like Les Brown, I always say, it's like got me through.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, like, because even when I think about like my own, like going through my whole like learning how to read, it was like almost like similar things where it was like for me, like I wasn't going to school at the time, like you know I finished high school and all that, and this is like I was chasing my hoop dream, you know what I'm saying? So I did like a 5th year. It was a teacher strike, so didn't play ball. So I literally came back for no reason now because I already graduated. Yeah. So I was like, I didn't know what to do. So after I dropped out, because I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking keep coming to school, and I don't need to be here. I was just like sitting around smoking weed all day. I'm keeping it real. Yeah. But not doing nothing productive with myself. And then I had to sit back and I was like, fam, you're moving like a real waste man out here. Like, not real talk, like bro, literally all you do is sit around and smoke weed all day with people. Yeah. That's cool. Like, and I was like, you got to do something, bro. You're not working. You got to do something. Like, at least work your mind. And like, I so happened to come across I think it was 48 Laws of Power. That was the first one I stumbled upon. And I read the book, and I'm not gonna cap. So I read like to 22 like the 22nd law, because like after a while I was like, if I keep reading this, I think it's gonna turn me slightly evil.
I get you.
Nah,
something about it,
because it's like you read it. Like I said, the first law was the one that always stuck with me. Was it get others to do 100% of the work? Get others to do the work, and you take 100% of the credit. Yeah. And I'm like, that's sounds kind of fucked up, but you know, whatever. You know, you roll with it, and then you keep reading the book, and you're like, yo. Especially because they give you all the historical like examples. You're like, I could do this. Yeah. And that's what I'm like, let me stop reading this before I get too many ideas in this. Yeah. I'm just on my evil tip, you know what I'm saying? But then that led me into like The Secret, and then that was like, you know, Law of Attraction and all that stuff. So it was like, it just opened up the floodgates. So it's like what you were saying when you got the subscription, that felt like it just opened up the floodgates. Yeah. Where it was just like, all right, boom. Now it's like the knowledge is just rolling in. It's not stopping.
I almost wish I had my journals now, because like from when I started that subscription, really got into Les Brown, Darren Hardy, who's probably one of my favorite people, Jim Rohn, all of this, and then I started reading. I have 4 journals at this point, and like in each of them is pretty much all quotes and things from, and like me like almost like studying the books that I'm reading. I approached it like a textbook.
I mean, but aren't our books not the same?
Exactly,
because they're giving out the knowledge just like the textbook, if not more knowledge, because the textbooks is kind of more like step-by-step precise ways of doing things. Well, when you're reading these type of books, it gives you perspective. And I feel like that's something that, you know, at least in school I never got a lot from like textbooks or textbook reading, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you anything that I read in the textbook at this point, but if you were to ask me what I read in one of the, just like a personal development book, I could answer that. Even, and I'm grateful too, because like what fueled me reading at that point was like, yes, I was learning a lot, but I was around, because I was still in the network marketing at that time, I was around people that were like all trying to make moves and trying to do this, and like they kept relaying everything back to reading is
key.
Exactly. And so that's what kept me going there, and it got me into like that entrepreneurial mindset. And then knowing that I didn't want money to be an issue in my life, and I wanted to be able to retire my mom from when I was younger. It all just connected.
All came full circle. Now that we talk about like how that came full circle, I want to talk about like in general, like, you know, with you being who you are, you know, black male society, entrepreneur, reader. You know what I'm saying? All that. Nah, because I say this as a serious thing, you know, because like I'm about to get into like, you know, your views on how society is from your perspective. But I just say that as like, especially the reader part, because I noticed one thing for me when I started reading, I'd go on the bus with a book and literally get double takes. Like people like walk by me and be like, is that nigga reading a book?
I have a funny story about that, but I can't say that. Yeah.
So that's when you know it's true. I'm not the only one, you know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, tell us about like, you know, how your views are on how society is for someone like yourself.
It's an interesting question. You know, I understand, you know, from growing up, my mom used to always say to me, like, as a black man, like, you're starting a little bit behind the start line, and so you have to work harder, you have to dress a certain way, you have to carry yourself a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, and so I always had that and adopted that. Now with being an entrepreneur and, you know, kind of like working on the businesses that we're working on at the moment, and I feel that I've created like my own little world.
No, talk about that a little bit. Like, you know, deep dive. Like, let the people know. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I feel like I created my own little world because, like, I understand that, like, others may try to put some sort of limitations on me or look at me a certain way because I like to read or because I'm doing these certain things and all of that. But it's like, in a way, there's a very large self-centeredness that goes on up here, where it's like, it's just being real, where it's like, I don't even like, I want to say I ignore it, but I don't ignore it because I just don't notice it anymore. Whereas like in the beginning, like, don't get me wrong, now there's still moments where I notice, like,
yeah, we're all human.
Yeah, I'm like, this guy's moving fugazi, you know, like, you know,
I'm not moving like that, cuz like, fix up, man. Fix up.
Yeah, but for the most part, I don't feel like I'm hit with a lot of the challenges that I know can be present for, you know, young black males trying to like do their thing and grow and all of that. And it's probably a large part because like what I even do. Like I work from like both companies are able to be run from a laptop.
I mean, but that's the thing that we got to like teach the youth now, because like, you know, I feel like I had a conversation like this with you know, another homie of mine before, where it's like, where we come from, this is why only a couple options, like ball, which don't take pretty much anyone anywhere. Like, it'll take you some places, but not where the promised land, or like working a regular job like everyone else. The thought process, I feel like where we're from, is not necessarily, oh, I can start my own business off a laptop. Like, you know, I don't need much but that. Like, I feel like that's one thing that we didn't talk more about, because like I feel like these kids feel like exactly what you said. The limitations have been put on them so much, where they feel like they're just in this dome, like, okay, this is where I'm at, I can't actually make it out of there.
As you say that and I reflect, I definitely did feel those limitations up until I probably got started in ACN or something. And then as my environment, my circle changed, and that's when I stopped like paying, like it wasn't hitting me as hard because I wasn't around.
I think that's a big thing too, about no one to be around, you know. I feel for most people, because a lot of people put limitations on you because they don't think they can do those things.
100%.
And it's like, you know, it's a toxic environment, because how are you supposed to grow? And like, just as a law of attraction thing, if everyone around you is saying, no, you can't do that.
I was actually having a similar conversation last night, and you know, at least when it comes to parents and family members and close friends, when it comes to like starting your own business and stuff, and them trying to put those limitations on you of saying, hey, you probably shouldn't do this, or you can't do that, or whatever. Those limitations they put on you, and that fear and doubt that they try to instill in you, comes from a place of love.
Of course, I was just about to say that too. Like, of course, it comes from a place of love, and they don't want to see you do something and then it doesn't live up to your expectations. But in the day, I'm a person, especially now, I'm a firm believer of people got to dream big, because there's too many people that are literally working to pay their bills and hate their job that they do.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I feel like that's just not a happy thing. And I feel like some people if we encourage more people to just chase their dreams, we'd be surprised how much encouragement can actually take people.
I love that you bring that up. So 2 things. When I see people in that situation of like absolutely hating their job, wanting to go do more, wanting to make more money or change their environment, it really confuses me, because I'm like, so do it. So what are you waiting?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel the same way, because like, you know, sometimes I feel like, you know, like the whole podcast is about, you know, basically a therapy session. So more times when I'm not doing the podcast, I feel like the hood therapist, you know, because a lot of people just, you know, talk to me about whatever, and we be talking sometimes people be talking to me, and I'm just like, if you can't change it, love it. Yeah. And if you want to change it, do it, because it's like there's nothing else you can really do, because the more you like just dwell in it, the worse it's gonna get. Because it's either you say, you know what, this is it, fuck it, I'm gonna just deal with it and roll the punches, or say, fuck this shit, I'm gonna make something else out of it. Because like whatever it is, even if it's like, people gotta realize too, sometimes you gotta take 2 steps back to really go 10 steps forward.
100%.
You know, I think about it. Yeah, exactly. I know arrow's my favorite thing, like one of my favorite metaphors too, because I always said, like, I even got one tatted on me for that same reason, where it's like it literally pulls back to shoot so far away. So sometimes you gotta sacrifice that if you want to change your environments. And I feel like a lot of people, they don't want to put in that extra work, because that's what it is. Like, you know, it's that extra work and process to like, okay, what do I have to do now to get to where I want to be, because I'm not liking this situation.
And the crazy thing is that extra work, yes, but sometimes, and a lot of the time, I feel it's just reorganization of like what you're currently doing, what your day looks like. Facts. It's like if nothing changes, nothing changes. But if one thing changes, that one thing being yourself, everything changes. And
it's the butterfly effect.
And it's reflected again and again and again in the lives and the stories of different entrepreneurs, different people. Just look at any real change maker, any real person that's like shifted their life.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. It's just like, it's almost like, you know, like a light bulb. Like it literally just goes off and you're like, okay. From once you start moving differently, everything else will start turning. And I feel I wholeheartedly agree with you, because I even think about like myself, like, you know, me starting to do what I'm doing. I've always wanted to do this type of shit, but like I've always thought like, well, you can't do that. Like, you know, there's like all these like white people on TV talking about sports. Not a lot of black guys, unless they were playing a sport, and I ain't that good. You know, and it was just like things like that, and then it's like it came to a point where it's like, especially like after, you know, getting shot and everything, where I was just like, I have nothing to lose. Like, why don't I just go hard and like just chase what I like? And once I started doing that, it's like what you said, everything just started clicking. Like, you know, it's like it wasn't even like my first intention was to do what I'm doing now. My first intention was I want to do something. Like, you know, let me like get into a program where it's like, even if I'm not going to use this, I'm getting up early. I'm doing something. I'm being productive with my days, because that was the start. And that just led into so many other things. And it was a domino effect. And I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is like, you gotta take a first step to run a marathon, you know, and marathons are scary. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's a big thing that like a lot of people don't come to grips with, especially when they have those situations where they're like, they hate their job, they want to change their life or whatever is going on, and they just don't realize that one part. It's like, you know, it's gonna be hard, that one step, but once you get it, before you know it, you're running. Yeah. You know, and then you're gone.
There's so many even little gold nuggets in what she said. It's like even something when you were speaking on when you're starting this, and it was like you mentioned getting up early. Mm-hmm. If you just really listen to like and read as you go, like it's all there. The roadmap is literally there.
It was. I didn't even see it though. That's
Yeah.
the funny part. I knew what I wanted and all that, but I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I just knew like, all right, something's got to. Exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Something's got to change. And something was I need to be up early in the morning doing something, and no excuse because I'm in a wheelchair and it takes me long to get ready. Like no one's gonna give a fuck in the real world. Like that can only run for so long. So it's just like, I got to do something, and from there it just, like I said, everything's kind of just kept rolling, and that's why I tried to tell people, it's like, yo, you just gotta take that step, and you'd be surprised how far it can take you. And even if you do like don't succeed immediately, like, you know, there's always a lesson in every like loss or whatever L you take. So it's like, just take that and run with it. Like, you know, take the good from the bad. You know, laugh at the fucked up thing that happened to you, and then, you know, keep it pushing. What else can you do?
Right. You know, you are like, from a lot, they're not gonna succeed right away. Let's keep it real.
Majority of people like, you're like, nigga, I ain't succeeded yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm just getting it rolling. Like,
man, like the amount of things I've tried and attempted, like literally from when I was 18, I decided I want to be a business owner. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do this. And from 18 until 25, 26, I was really and truly just a wantrepreneur. I was that guy that would, I'm gonna talk about it. Like, I'm talk about it all the time. Like, it's
all the plans are set up.
I'm gonna do Amazon FBA. I'm gonna start selling these products online. I'm gonna have an e-com store. So when someone asks me like, what have you done so far? Nothing. But don't worry, it's sick, bro. I'm gonna be sick with it. And it's not like that.
I'll be
like,
keeping it real with you. That's exactly how I felt. Like, I remember right after I got shot, because I was like, oh fuck, what do I do now? Because, like, you know, gotta like go back to regular working and all that. That was my whole thought process. And I'm like, man, fuck it, I'm gonna start rapping. Wheelchair rap's coming soon. I said that for like fucking like 3 years. All my homies who've been around me, they'll know. Like, you know, I was like, wheelchair rap's dropping soon. I was just talking shit. Like, I had no idea what I would do. And then it's like, eventually when I thought of the idea to do something like this, I was like, exactly what you said. I was talking about it for the longest time before someone's like, so you buy any equipment? And you're like, exactly what you said. I'm like, nah, but like, fam. I was like, it can only take you so far, bro. Like, you gotta put your money where your mouth is sometimes, and you gotta like really dive into it and like try. Like, I feel like that's one thing. A lot of people, they're scared to try things because we're always scared of that fear of failure, like, you know, fear of rejection. That's something that I've dealt with a lot in my life. Like, you know, that I had a strong issue with, like, fear of failure, fear of rejection. Like, one reason why I hate to ask people shit is because I hate to hear no, because I hate that rejection of like, no, I can't. It's like, fuck you mean no? Fuck it, I'll do it myself. So it's like, I'd rather not even ask you anyways. So it's like, I could understand why people are like that, but it's like, you need to fail in order to grow.
100%. And you know, the fear of failure, like, it's huge, and look, I'm afflicted with it. But the thing is, it shows up in so many different ways. It's not always like, I'm not going to take this action because I'm afraid of failure. It can show up in, I've taken this action, but I'm going to self-sabotage as soon as things start moving well. Just so, like, you know, it failed on me, so I can just say it's done, even though, like, you never know what could happen. Exactly. And even with that, like, I feel like I'm lucky in the paths. You know, when it comes to rejection, man, I got so much of it just because I got into sales. So I was doing door-to-door solar sales for 3.5 years and business sales. That's a lot of close the door in your face. They don't even say no. They just close the door. Bruh, like, it was tough. The first 2 weeks I wanted to quit. I can't even lie. You were stronger than me because I would not be doing that because I couldn't. I could not accept all day someone just being like, nah. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. But I have to give it to one of the sales manager there. His name was Chris. I owe him like my entire sales career pretty much. He handed me a book within my first 2 weeks, and it was Door to Door Millionaire by Lenny Gray. And I read the first chapter and then go to work the next day. They throw up a contest. Like, we were the first door to door solar team for that company. And they threw up a contest of like, whoever closes the most sales today gets a pair of shoes. I read the first chapter of that book the night before. I went into work the next day. I closed as the first person I ever closed 4 deals in a single day there for solar, and then went on and just like continued my sales career and just did that. I caught a lot of L's. A lot of L's, but I got a lot of dubs.
Yeah,
in the sense of like, and they were mental dubs. Like it's like you had to like go through it. It's like everything has to happen.
It's like that weird thing where like, you know, it's a combination of experience, a little bit of luck, and then, you know, like you said, going through it where it's like, okay, you have things to base things off of, and then when you add that in with your new knowledge, now you're killing shit. You know what I'm saying? While some people, they're just like, they don't want to go through the pain of the experience, because I feel like that's what the experience leaves you with, a lot of pain. Because like you said, you took a lot of L's. It takes a lot to take a lot of rejection and still come back and be like, yeah, you know, this is what I got to do.
I kept coming back up until I didn't, bro. At one point,
I mean, eventually you're like, fuck that, I ain't selling shit for niggas.
like 3.5 years of just solar. There one time I was gonna go knock on the door. Before I even got to the steps, I was like,
what am I doing?
Yo, it's like putting your hand on a hot stove and you don't know if it's hot or not.
You're like,
and I was like, yo, I'm done.
Yeah.
Let me go inside. So I just changed sales. Went inside sales. Stayed in sales.
It's changed your position in sales, but you're still in sales. You know what I'm saying? I feel that.
Yeah.
So, you know, one thing though I got to get into, because it's one thing that we always get into on the podcast. We talk a little bit about like the mental health aspect of things, because like, you know, we're just talking about how everybody takes L's, and like I feel like it's a big thing that we need to talk about, like that I like to talk about with the guests, especially about like traumatic things that happen to them in their life. You know, one thing in particular, you know, like I feel that made you kind of like think about your mental health state, and like how did you cope and get through that, and like in turn that negative to a positive.
Growing, so I do have a story to that. Prior to this event occurring, I would talk to people that were afflicted with mental health and say, like, tell me about them being depressed or feeling anxiety. Real shit, I had no fucking idea what anxiety was. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, no, growing up, I didn't know either. Trust me.
And they would talk to me about it, and I always be empathetic and sympathetic, have that ear, but I really and truly didn't get it until I got it.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. It's just like, you're just like, oh, this is why people say I can't leave the house sometimes.
Yeah,
I have so much anxiety.
You know, I guess to answer the original question, I went through like a 2.5 year long depression, and I had no idea I was even going through it up until I was working with CAA at the time, and I just always have audiobooks going. And I bought an audiobook on cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's just playing. It was nearly done. It was like 22 hours long. And, you know,
it's deep.
Yeah, it's deep. And there's a whole chapter on depression, and I didn't even know the chapter was depression, bro. But they're talking, and I'm just driving my truck. I'm like, yo, why is this man talking about me like that? Like, yo,
that's personal. Why is he talking about me like that?
And it's just hitting with bangers and bangers, and I'm like, yo, I think I've been going through a major depression. And I was, and you know, I guess to shed light on it, my mom, she had got sick, really sick. You know, she made it past the breast cancer and stuff like that, and I guess I'll give a condensed version of as seeing someone at the time that lived in Guelph, and I was going between Toronto and Guelph. But this time I decided to go for a month. And when I came back, November 19th, I go in my house, see my mom, everything's normal. I'm like, hey mom, what's going on? She's like, who are you? And
fuck,
you know, that whole situation, I just try to calm her down. She's like, really didn't know who I was. And so after a few minutes, it kind of came back. And then over those couple of days of November 19th, 20th, and 21st, by the 21st, we brought her to the hospital, and you know, she's never left since then. And now,
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, she's in a position where she can't speak or talk or move or anything like that. But the last words that I ever heard from my mom, like last words said, was "I love you very much." And in that moment, I promised her I'd take care of the family. And from that moment, I was a entrepreneur prior to that, where, you know, I'd always talk, my mom was my pillar, and I'd talk to her about the life I wanted to create and how I wanted to retire her and how I wanted to start all these businesses and I wanted to achieve these big, ginormous goals. But she did not get to see me do that. And so when everything occurred and she had gone into the hospital, went through major depression and was completely unaware of it. How I showed up for myself in that relationship at the time was like a completely different person. You know, you go through it all of like,
Facts.
you know,
ups and downs, roller coaster
life.
life.
It all, but once I realized I was in a depression, I'm the type of person where it's like you can't claim ignorance now. And so
you know better now.
Exactly. So I started looking around for different therapies like CBT. Someone thought it could have been PTSD that I was going through, and
that PTSD is a bitch. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Right. I ended up going with MICBT, which is mindfulness integrated cognitive behavioral therapy. I ended up started doing these practices plus meditating twice a day every day for like 3 months plus, and I cycled back through it probably a couple times each year. And you know, that's what helped me get out of the depression, but also, you know, I guess there's a lot of things that led to that depression at the time. Still, jeez.
We laugh at our pain. You know.
Lost my mom in the way that I knew my mom. Lost a major relationship that I leaned on there at the same time, due to a one toxic gal, you see. But that's how
it usually goes.
And then lost that, and then at that point it felt like I had nothing. And that's when it all came back front of mind of, I made a promise that I will not break. It's a must. And that's when I really started taking things seriously and making moves in a direction. Took care of my mental health first, doing the MICBT. And through that just aligned the path for me to make the steps that I needed to take to keep my promise. And that's still like my North Star, my guiding path of, I will take care of my family, I will take care of it, I'll hit my goals. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, fam, you're trying to make me cry out here and shit, my nigga. Like, real talk. Cause like, you know, some deep shit. Cause like, even when you're telling your story, like even when you said like your mom went to the hospital November 21st, I got shot on November 21st. So like, even when you're saying that, like those things like connect a lot to me. And it was just like, even what you're saying where it's like, you took that straight negative where that fucking breaks people. Like, you know, I could never imagine even now, like going through what you went through and like seeing my Dukes and her saying that to me. Cause like that even happened to me with my grandma, and that made me feel away. But she was like, you know, at a time where maybe those things are expected, but still. So it's like, you know, to go through all that pain and then at the end of it be like, nah, I gotta do better for everybody else right now. Like, you know, and to start, I gotta take care of me first. And I feel like that's a big thing, because like that's the definition of taking a negative into a positive and using the pain to motivate you to do better. Because it's like, you see how hard it is, and fuck that, I'm trying to make it easier for everybody now. And like, you know, I really just appreciate you sharing that right there. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just, you know, it's something that you didn't have to tell everybody. You know, I appreciate that.
That's all I love, bro.
You know,
definitely not something that I don't even. I don't know. You know when things are just okay. There's some moments where it's just okay, but it's definitely not something most people in my life don't even have an idea.
Yeah, because from having a conversation with you beforehand, I would never have known something like that. You know what I'm saying? And then to hear that, and then to see the person you are and how you've elevated your life so much going forward. You know what I'm saying? This is why we tell these stories, because there's somebody else out there that is going through something very similar that probably needs to hear that you made a promise and you're not breaking that, period. Doesn't matter what the fuck happens. So I really do appreciate that you coming here telling that that real story, because this is a Wheel1 podcast, so we keep it real out here. So we're telling that real story. Really appreciate that. But before I even let you go though, one thing, because we done talked about how we turn the negative into a positive when we moving forward on big things. What's coming up for the future for you? What holds in the future?
G-Wagons.
G-Wagons. We pulling up in big bodies out here.
But, I was even talking about this yesterday. Once again, I'm super excited about everything that's happening and everything that's, I guess to keep it super simple, after that situation, I started an advertising company and just worked from nothing, just had to do my thing, and it went okay, it went well. Took care of me for 3 years. I haven't done anything, but which was cool. But started a second company recently, and that just really
things are taking off.
And then it fueled the advertising company, so now that's really taking off. So now
everything's just working out right now, basically.
But it took 10 years of trying to be an entrepreneur, from 18 to now I'm 28, and it's been trying. And
that's the thing that people don't realize. An overnight story takes 10 years to happen. There's a lot of grind that comes into that. One day everything just starting to click, and I like that you mentioned that part too before you just you went into everything started booming. It was a 10-year grind. That shit, it wasn't easy, but now you get to reap the fruits, reap your fruits, because it's you've been put on all this work. And
I'm grateful. I needed that 10 years, to be honest. You don't get something for nothing. You have to break through those barriers. There's life's gonna keep hitting you with the same lesson till you learn the lesson.
Facts. So
you have to get through it mentally. That why I said earlier that waking up early was a golden nugget. Because it is. You have to get up early, bro.
You gotta get up early and get your shit done. Start your day. Be productive from the top of the top.
Write it down on paper.
Keep it real. I don't write it out on paper, but I got a mental schedule. Everything's set up. I'm trying to get up by 6 at least. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully be out of bed moving by around, I don't know, 6:37ish. I've been doing that lately though. You know what I'm saying? My girl's looking at me, I'm capping. But you know what I'm saying? That's always the goal. But if I need to really get up and do something, best believe I ain't playing. Top of the top. I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
So that's just
I mess with it.
Yeah, this is I love the mornings though. I'm an early morning guy, but I'm a low key a night owl too, because I like late nights, early mornings.
I used to be a night owl. Now by 9:30, 10, I'm my eyes are bloodshot red.
Yeah, I'm not even capped to you. I take a lot of naps. That's what helps me.
Right?
I take a lot of naps, bro.
What I will say to your previous question on what's next, I will say this. When it comes to myself, if I'm being honest, I do want a G-Wagon. But that's the only thing that I'd want for myself. Everything comes right back down to my family. I want to put my nephews in positions that I was not in, my brothers and sisters weren't in. Just earlier today I was talking about how we could get my sister a new place. And I
bet that feels fucking good.
Right? And it's all about them. And then I want to give back in some way. Prior, it's funny, we mentioned the school. I don't know if anyway, I had an idea to start a program for youths in the past of, to just be that coach in their corner, where it's like very entrepreneur based, where it's like, just say what your dream or your goal is. You don't have to be scared or frightened here. So I'm not going to be the person to say that's a silly idea or that's not possible. I want to be the person in their corner and say, yeah, that's dope.
You can do this.
Make this work.
Exactly.
So,
I really love hearing that, bro.
Yeah, but in regards to this next, I guess it's just family stuff for me, and just keep growing. And we're trying to do our thing.
I feel that. It's the whole goal. How to take care of the fam and keep growing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do out here too. I'm at a slow pace, but I'm getting there. I'm gonna get there eventually. But Christian, thank you again coming down. I really appreciate it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's your boy Master Twice. It's the Wheel1 Podcast. And then we're signing out.